Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, if you're watching a new relationship, maybe it's yours, maybe a friend's, you often see this amazing start, high energy, seems like it's going to last forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Full speed ahead.
Exactly. And then, confusingly, bam, right around 5-6 months, it just crashes. No huge fight, no big betrayal necessarily, just this kind of slow, silent fade out. Why does modern love seem to hit that wall right there?
It's a statistic that honestly surprises a lot of people. A huge number, way more than you'd think, of new couples just don't make it past that half-year mark.
Right.
And when you really dig into the relationship dynamics, the sources are pretty clear. The biggest reasons, they aren't usually the massive blow-ups.
Yeah.
No. It's the subtle stuff, the everyday tensions, and maybe more importantly, the lack of skill or maybe willingness to sort them out. These little things just pile up.
Creating this, invisible barrier.
Exactly. A silent, uncrossable chasm, as one source put it.
That's exactly what we want to focus on today. We're aiming to give you that expert shortcut, to get informed about those quiet relationship killers. Our mission here is to really dissect those subtle factors and give you, our listener, some actionable, specific insights to navigate those first 6 months. We want to move beyond the generic advice. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. We really need to get beneath the surface, look at the psychology behind it all. For you, the listener wanting to understand this, we're zeroing in on those unresolved misunderstandings.
The ones that build up.
Yeah, the ones that accumulate, because couples just instinctively shy away from the difficult, maybe awkward conversations that you need for real long-term connection.
Okay.
If you can spot these basic patterns early on, you've got a real shot at changing the outcome. Fundamentally.
Okay, so let's start right where things often begin, that initial amazing spark, that fire, and then how it often fizzles out. It's that clash, isn't it, between the idealized fantasy and, just boring, messy reality.
Absolutely. When we first start dating someone,
Yeah.
our brains are flooded with chemicals. It's intense.
The rose-colored glasses effect.
Totally. We see our partner as perfect. We expect nonstop romance, constant attention. They should just know what we need.
Yeah. Mind-reading partners, if only.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
But yeah, psychologists call that intense stage limerence, or just, the honeymoon phase.
Okay.
And the research points pretty clearly to the fact that those chemicals responsible for the high dopamine norepinephrine, that buzz,
Yeah.
they start to seriously taper off for most people right around, guess when? 4 to 6 months.
There it is, the 6-month mark again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when that chemical high fades, suddenly the little quirks aren't so charming anymore. They're annoying. They're logistical problems.
And when reality doesn't live up to that initial, Hollywood movie fantasy, that's when the frustration really starts to bite.
Totally. A small disagreement about, dinner plans or forgetting to text back suddenly feels enormous, like a major betrayal of what the relationship was supposed to be.
Right. We looked at that story of Emma, didn't we?
Yes, Emma. She went into it with this unspoken, totally idealized idea of her partner.
The mind reader.
The mind reader. He was supposed to remember every little date, notice every tiny mood change, and when he forgot one, pretty minor anniversary, Emma didn't just feel let down.
No, it felt like rejection.
Deep rejection, like he'd failed this fantasy test of the perfect partner. And pretty soon after that, they were arguing all the time. Split up at 5 months.
Wow. So the insight there is just huge. It wasn't about a lack of love, fundamentally. It was a failure to engage in, what the sources call solution 2, setting realistic expectations.
Exactly.
But how do you even set realistic expectations if you don't know what your own hidden ones are until someone, steps on them?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the critical step, becoming self-aware. The sources really hammer this home.
Yeah.
You have to shift from being reactively disappointed to being proactively honest.
Okay, proactive honesty.
Which leads us straight into the second silent killer.
Yeah.
Just bad communication. Or maybe lack of communication.
The avoidance thing.
Yeah, pervasive communication failure. Most couples, they avoid the tough conversations, not because they literally can't talk, but because they choose temporary peace, keeping things smooth now, over building long-term psychological safety.
So that lack of talking is what turns those little post-honeymoon phase frustrations into real deep resentment. It just calcifies. Breakups happen because people avoid talking about the hard stuff because they fear conflict. What the research call it? Conflict avoidance behavior.
That's the term. And what's fascinating here, and kind of insidious, is how quietly it builds up. We saw this play out with Mark and Lily.
Ah, yes. Tell us about them.
Well, Lily started feeling neglected. Mark spent most weekends playing video games, which, okay, maybe fine sometimes, but she felt ignored.
But she didn't say anything.
Nope, never voiced it. She was worried she'd sound like she was nagging him.
Common fear.
Very common. So Mark, meanwhile, he sees no complaint, assumes everything's great, perfect even.
Until
6 months in, Lily just explodes over something really minor.
Yeah.
Mark is completely blindsided, didn't see it coming at all. The tension that had built up silently was just unbearable by then.
Wow. And you think maybe just a 10-minute chat 3 months earlier?
Could have saved it.
Yeah.
But they didn't have solution one.
Right.
Communicate openly, especially about the process of their relationship, not just, what movie should we watch?
Right. But isn't there a risk? Like, if you bring up negative stuff too early, especially when you're not fully committed yet, couldn't that scare someone off?
That's a totally valid fear. People worry about that. But the research actually argues the opposite, in a way.
Sure.
Transparency, even if it's a bit uncomfortable, tends to build intimacy faster than just avoiding conflict.
How so?
Because you're essentially stress testing the relationship early on. You're finding out if it can handle a bit of difficulty, if talking about weekend habits or feeling a bit neglected makes it crumble.
Then it probably wasn't going to survive something bigger down the line. And
It definitely wouldn't survive a real crisis, like losing a job or dealing with an illness.
Yeah.
The advice is clear. Address things early, however small they seem. It builds that foundation of psychological safety.
Yeah.
Trust, basically.
Okay, that makes sense. So moving beyond just the emotional expectations and communication, that initial rush, that limerence, it also hides basic incompatibility sometimes, right? Like how you actually live your lives day to day.
Oh, absolutely. Once the initial excitement settles and you actually start trying to mesh your lives together, maybe spending 4 or 5 nights a week together, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's when differences in core compatibility, the nitty-gritty logistics, they really start to surface. If your fundamental beliefs about money or family, or even just how tidy the apartment should be, if they clash significantly, that friction ramps up tension fast.
And ignoring those red flags because the initial feeling is so strong.
It just leads to logistical failure down the road, almost inevitably.
That case study of the night owl and the early riser really struck me.
Oh yeah, that one's so relatable for many.
They really loved each other, apparently, but one was, up with the lark, needed quiet by 9 p.m.
The other was just hitting their stride creatively past midnight.
And those clashing schedules just meant they hardly ever had real, awake, quality time together. Their deep emotional connection just couldn't bridge that gap in daily life structure. And broke up after 5 months of just low-level, constant frustration.
And this points directly to a failure in solution 4. Evaluate compatibility. The source material draws a really important distinction here.
Which is?
Love is a feeling. Compatibility is about having a shared ability and willingness to actually build a life structure together. You have to be radically honest about lifestyle, daily habits, future goals, and you need to do it early.
Okay, radically honest. I like that. And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Because modern life, specifically technology, seems to pour gasoline on these compatibility fires.
Oh, absolutely. Technology adds this whole massive layer of complexity that, previous generations just didn't have to deal with. It strains trust, it strains intimacy, often through just constant digital distraction.
You mean like being on your phone all the time when you're together?
Exactly. The term is phubbing, phone snubbing.
Phubbing, okay.
Yeah. And the analysis of relationship patterns is pretty clear, even if you're just harmlessly scrolling through social media or news. The perception that you're being ignored because your partner is glued to a screen, that triggers insecurity, it can trigger jealousy. It sends this constant little signal. The person physically in the room is less important than the device in your hand.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that. We saw how devastating that was for Sophie.
Right, Sophie's boyfriend. Spent way more time focused on his phone than actually talking to her, even during meals together.
And it started small, right? Like little jokes.
Yeah, she'd make these kind of half-joking comments like, "Who's texting you, your secret lover?" That kind of thing.
Trying to lightly address it.
Exactly. But it quickly escalated into real arguments. Those constant little micro-rejections, feeling like she wasn't getting his attention, It just killed the intimacy. They drifted apart pretty quickly, within months.
Man, that really highlights the need for solution 5. Establish trust and boundaries, doesn't it? Especially around our digital lives.
Absolutely essential. And it links directly to solution 3. Spend quality time together. You have to intentionally carve out and protect that time.
Device-free time.
Yes. The sources really emphasize this. Actual shared experiences, focused time where the phones are off or away. That builds real intimacy far more effectively, far more sustainably than just constant back and forth texting.
So agree on the rules.
Yeah. Agree on when phones are off limits. Maybe during meals, definitely during important conversations, maybe in the bedroom, whatever works for the couple, but have the conversation.
Okay, so let's say a relationship survives the fantasy crash, navigates the logistical snags, manages the digital distractions. It then hits maybe the final biggest test around this time.
Yeah, the ultimate test, perhaps, commitment fears. This is often the last silent killer looking around that 6-month point.
Right, because 6 months, that feels like a turning point, doesn't it?
It really often is. It's frequently when the relationship starts shifting gears from casual dating to something more serious.
Yeah.
The conversation changes. It goes from, what are we doing Friday night, to what does our future actually look like?
Meet the parents, merge finances, move in.
All those bigger questions. And this is exactly where what the sources call low investment avoidance behavior can really kick in.
Okay, explain that. Low investment avoidance.
It means some people, even if they genuinely care about their partner, maybe even love them, they keep one foot metaphorically out the door.
Hedging your bets.
Sort of. They're hesitant to fully invest emotionally, hesitant to make real long-term plans, and that creates this awful instability for the other person.
Yeah, the partner who is ready to invest, they just feel constantly unsure, rejected maybe.
Constantly rejected is often how it feels. We saw this so clearly with Jake and Anna.
Right, tell us their story.
Things were going great, seemingly perfect, until they hit that 6-month mark. And the topic of moving in together just came up casually in conversation.
And Jake
Just froze, pulled back immediately. Not necessarily because he didn't care deeply for Anna, but the sources suggested it was more about a fear of, closing off his future options. That commitment felt too final.
Wow. And Anna felt that pullback.
Oh, absolutely. She interpreted his hesitation not as his own internal fear, but as a rejection of her, a rejection of their potential future together. And feeling that, she felt she had no choice but to end it.
Oof. That fear of closing off options, the paradox of choice we hear about. That must be incredibly frustrating for the partner who is ready to build something.
It's deeply frustrating.
So what did the sources say? How do you deal with a partner who's showing that kind of low investment avoidance?
Well, the sources label this behavior as particularly insidious because it directly prevents the emotional investment needed to actually move the relationship forward to make it stable.
It keeps it stuck.
Exactly. It keeps it in limbo. So the key recommendation is solution 6. Be honest about commitment. You have to have those honest talks about the future early and, importantly, continuously.
Not just a one-off conversation.
Definitely not. And you need to recognize the signs. If your partner consistently avoids or deflects or minimizes any talk about, say, 3 months, 6 months down the line, that's not just casualness. That itself is a massive red flag.
It signals they might not be willing to invest.
Right. A relationship needs 2 people willing to put in equal effort towards its future. Both need to be rowing in the same direction.
Okay. Wow. So we've really walked through the whole minefield here. The fantasy crash, the communication breakdown, the lifestyle clashes, digital distractions eroding intimacy, and finally, these paralyzing commitment fears.
It's a lot.
It is. But what's great is that we've really woven those 6 solutions right into discussing the problems, which gives us a really clear, quick framework for how to succeed, hopefully.
Yeah, I think laying it out that way helps. So just to synthesize everything we've discussed, maybe we can quickly list those 6 key strategies again. The ones the research shows are crucial for getting through these first 6 months.
Okay, let's nail them down.
Okay. Number 1, communicate openly. Make psychological safety the priority. Talk about everything, even the awkward stuff. Don't let small things fester.
Got it. Number 2.
Set realistic expectations. Get past the perfect fantasy stage. Accept that relationships take real effort and compromise. It's not effortless.
3.
Spend quality time together. Actual experiences, focused, device-free time. That builds connection way better than just constant, kind of low-effort texting.
Makes sense. 4.
Evaluate compatibility. Be brutally honest, remember, about the logistics, daily habits, core values. where you see your lives going.
Okay, 5.
Establish trust and boundaries, especially around digital stuff. Set some rules to fight that phubbing and the micro-rejections. Prioritize being present when you're actually together.
Crucial. And the last one, number 6.
Be honest about commitment. Make sure both of you are actually on the same page about where the relationship is heading and how much you're both willing to invest in its future.
Applying those consistently, it really feels like it builds a much stronger foundation, right? Something that can actually withstand that inevitable fading of the initial, crazy infatuation.
Definitely. It creates the emotional resilience you need for the long haul.
It could save so many potentially good relationships from just fizzling out silently.
That's the hope.
So what does this all mean? I guess the big takeaway for me from all this research is that relationships are challenging, yeah, but failure often comes more from neglect than some big crisis.
Well put. Neglect of the small things.
Exactly. If you understand where those common breakdown points are, those subtle tensions, the communication failures we talked about, you have a much better chance of avoiding unnecessary heartbreak. You have to actively nurture the connection, spot those quiet red flags. It seems like that's the only way to really survive that tricky first 6 months and build something real.
And maybe remember this final thought, something that really comes through from all the sources we looked at. Love isn't just a feeling you stumble into passively. No. It's also a commitment. It's an active effort. And fundamentally, it's a conscious choice you have to make and communicate pretty much every single day.
A choice made every day. That's powerful. Okay, so if these first 6 months are really defined by that collision between fantasy and reality, here's something provocative for you, our listener, to maybe think about. If you were being completely honest with yourself right now, what small necessary compromise are you maybe avoiding in your relationship? Perhaps because you're trying to avoid conflict. A compromise that, if you don't make it, could be silently building resentment for later.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Something to mull over. Food for thought. We'll see you next time for the next Deep Dive.